Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom podcast. Today, we continue our comic book movie journey through film with The Dark Knight Rises. It was released on July 20th, 2012, with a story by David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan, with a screenplay by Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, directed by Christopher Nolan. I am Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. And back to conclude the trilogy which she began, Clare DeGannero. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so good to be back.
Oh, it's so good to have you and on video for the first time ever. How about that?
Exciting.
Yeah,
I know it's a whole new world over here on the Penny Bloom podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking a pretty major installment in the comic book movie journey through film today. The conclusion of the Dark Knight trilogy. We're going to start with you as our guest. How are you feeling about the Dark Knight Rises after this viewing?
I'm actually really sad that this is our last of the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I wish we were not ending on my least favorite, but it is what it is. I think every time I see this movie, I kind of go back and forth with how I feel about it. So I'm excited to go into it with you guys for sure.
I'm the same way. To be sure. Yeah, and it's interesting too. I think that as far as the trilogy is concerned, time-wise, this has probably been the longest from first installment to last installment in our podcast anyway. Because there was only 5 years between Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3. There's 7 years between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises. So like we got quite the span here.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm the same. I'm definitely the same in the back and forth I have with this movie. It is my least favorite. Also, it's the most indifferent I am to any of the Nolan Batman movies. What about you, Joe? How are you feeling?
I don't know. What I do know is Dark Knight is number one. I think that's pretty comfortable in everyone's ranking there. I'm kind of going back and forth though, on whether I do like this more than Batman Begins or not. I'd say Nolan has definitely become a better filmmaker. I could it is a better made movie. I think maybe story, maybe not, but just like camera and just all the things Nolan does. I think he's upgraded and it looked better than Batman Begins. But I think the story of Batman Begins I do like more. I do like the origin of it all, and Ra's and everything.
Interesting.
So,
That's interesting. I actually disagree with that.
You think
I
Batman
think
Begins looks
Batman
better?
Begins is a better movie on pretty much every front. I think that, except for like maybe, I think it has a much greater individual identity. Like I feel like it stands on, like they were really going for something that doesn't really fit in terms of vibe with The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Like The Dark Knight Rises, in terms of look, has become much more of Christopher Nolan's sort of. It has a lot more in common with Interstellar than it does The Prestige.
Yeah.
In terms of visual filmmaking. And one way or another, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't think it's really either. I just think it's a shift. I don't think that
That's
necessarily
true.
one is better than the other. It's just that he's become a more refined filmmaker in his style, whereas he used to kind of bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, I think too it's like there's a very stylistic change from Batman Begins, probably because they had more money and it's more of a blockbuster. Like it feels kind of like the blockbusterization of something in Batman Begins that maybe wasn't as refined, but maybe a little bit more interesting, maybe had a little bit more personality. I don't know if this one visually has as much personality as that one did.
No, and there's still some gorgeous moments. The thing is that I had like, this is the first Nolan movie where I actually had a tough time picking a favorite shot for the movie, and it wasn't because there was like an abundance of beautiful visuals in my opinion. It was because I was like, I don't really know what to go with, because there's nothing that, I mean, it means he created a visual language for the movie that kind of maintains throughout the movie, which is good. But there's nothing that really sticks out as like oh, well, that's the fucking thing. Like that is the shot of the movie. It's like in The Dark Knight you had a few options, in Batman Begins you had a few options, but I feel like here it's kind of there's a sameness to everything that again, I don't think that's particularly a good or bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It just is the way it is. Um yeah,
Yeah,
so it's an interesting one
I
for me.
see what you mean. Now, because I'd say I initially said that it's better looking and better made than Batman Begins because of that style change. Maybe that style change to me just looks more cinematic, maybe. But you're right in saying that that doesn't necessarily mean it's better because, it is just a style. And I think,
Mhm.
they are coming off of the Dark Knight. They have a lot of money. This is going to fill the seats pretty much no matter what. They
Made
do.
over $1 billion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I mean, there are obviously a lot more grand things happening. Like I feel like that was the Batman Begins felt more small in scope, even though at the
Hmm.
end they were planning on blowing up Gotham, which is what is happening here. They're just refueling Ra's al Ghul's plan. Um, but this one felt, I don't know, bigger at scale.
No,
There was,
I
um,
think the thing is that Gotham had a much more visceral identity in
mm,
Batman Begins. In Dark Knight Rises, it's Manhattan. It is
yeah,
the island of Manhattan.
Yeah,
It is New York. Um,
true. Mm,
yeah.
and I think that like the narrows in Batman Begins and the grittiness and the darkness and that's something that kind of evolves over the course of this trilogy. And I think when we discussed this movie for the first time, fucking 3-4 years ago, when it was just me and Tavares doing it, I discussed a visual language change where the first one takes place almost entirely at night. The second one has a 50-50, and this one takes place almost entirely during the day.
Ooh,
Um,
that's a
huh.
fun thing to realize. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I
yeah,
like
like, and it's
that.
almost entirely during the daytime, this movie. And it's there are a few there's plenty of time spent at night, like but ultimately
Really?
when we get to night, there ends up being like a giant time jump. Like we go from there being like 12 hours until the bomb detonates to there being like 3, and we kind of don't know how, like they're basically just planning. They were setting up that entire time. They were trying to figure
Mm,
something out. And then all of a sudden the bomb's about to go off and we've got to figure this out. We
yeah,
sped through the night. That is what happened there. And
that's
it's like
true. Yeah, no, even on a smaller scale, it happened on like that Wall Street robbery. When they stole all of Bruce's money. It starts in the day, and then whenever they're like just leaving and like on their motorcycle bikes, and then Batman comes in, it's just kind of nighttime all of a sudden. Whenever the police are chasing Batman instead of Batman chasing Bane and all the other people.
mm,
Yeah, you're kind of right. Yeah, like when they do nighttime, it's very quick, and all of a sudden, yeah, they don't really spend a lot of time at night in here. That is, hmm. I
Yes,
I guess
go
I
ahead.
haven't given it thought until now, but
yeah, no, it was something that I noticed a couple years back, and I think it's a good sign of the state of Gotham. Like
hmm,
at the beginning of this movie, Gotham is apparently not crime free, but it feels like they're basically crime free. Like they're like, we don't need Batman. Like we're good. What Harvey Dent did, clean the streets up for good. But uh, I think that there's something about this movie also that I've noticed more on the last couple watches, where sequels or like the conclusion to a trilogy typically feels like a sequel to the second movie.
Hmm.
I appreciate that this is like it takes elements from both of the first two movies
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
and concludes the full story. That's always something I've appreciated. I think it's a little too stuffed. I think that it's a little long. I think that there's a little too much going on here. Um,
yeah,
but ultimately, I think it works for the most part. Bottom line is I liked it more than I thought I would on this rewatch.
yeah,
Not like it's still my least favorite, but it's I'm not like absolutely like, "Oh god, this is the worst Dark Knight." Like it is, but I don't feel like it's by a mile, you
yeah.
know?
One thing
Yeah.
that I'm confused about is why they tried to like build more lore up and build more world building, like Robin. Like it seems that they're trying. Like it seems that they're like, all right, there's gonna be a like another movie. Like that
Mhm.
we're building towards something more. Like Batman he's trying to rid himself and find his
Really takes
replacements,
the
sort of
Mhm.
thing.
really takes the zing out of the end whenever you know there's not another movie. Like,
Yeah,
why is the last shot
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt? You
like
know, like
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, I guess it's Nolan likes to end movies with a lot of you fill in the gaps and the dots yourself, of what can happen next. Not necessarily he has to show it to you, like the end of Interstellar. You know go find Brent. Go to her planet. He gets in the spaceship. He's about to take off. That feels more complete with the movie, though. This is like
yeah.
starting a whole different like branch that they really didn't dive super deep into. Like they made him a detective, and
Around a
he
character
knew.
that frankly you don't give that much of a shit about.
No.
Mm-mm. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think
I don't
in
know.
general the executions of the characters that they add in this movie are pretty weak. And it is weird that in this last installment, generally you introduce like your new main characters in a sequel. Like that's basically what a sequel is for. In the last installment to have like five new like really important characters just feels very strange. And it feels like no one gets enough time throughout the movie to really care about any of them.
Yeah, no, like we're adding Selena Kyle and we're adding Robin,
I
Detective
guess.
Blake.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
Robin. It's not really
yeah,
Robin.
we're adding Bane, of course. We're continuing Miranda Tate. Like just so fucking many characters, and like I wish I liked the Miranda Tate stuff more.
Well, it's not, yeah. So,
And there's no, go ahead. Sorry.
no, well, the thing with Miranda Tate, I don't know how many watches it took me to realize this, but I'm like, oh, that's the Poison Ivy character. Like,
It's supposed to be like a self-insert sort, like a
but like when you think, because I was thinking of Batman and Robin when I was watching this and when we had been talking about that, and I'm like, it's so, I don't, like, I guess this is how you would do a real life version of whatever that Poison Ivy character was, but it's just not done in
it
a
is a
way.
little bit of a there is a little bit of an amalgamation thing going on for sure. Uh,
Because she's the environmentalist, she's the
Yep.
scientist.
yeah,
Seduces Bruce. Gets on the
yeah.
seductive
Yeah,
side. I guess I've
I
never
mean,
really
like
thought of
the
that.
thing is that the environmental thing, like
Yeah.
that does shift it towards Poison Ivy a bit. I'm like the Talia al Ghul character, the
mhm,
daughter of Ra's al Ghul. Like she also sleeps with like
Mm-hmm.
Damian Wayne is Talia al Ghul's son. That is the son that Bruce and
Mm-hmm.
Talia have together,
mhm.
Damian Wayne. So like they also sleep together. They also have a relationship. So and that's
It's kind of Batman's
I'm
thing.
okay.
Um,
Like the business side of this story further isolates Bruce to a point where he has nothing, he's alone, and that's the point of most of the stuff in this movie is to hammer away that he has nobody in his corner left. He has to do what he has to do. Um, the twist to make in the first place, like
mm-hmm.
Bane is Ra's al Ghul's son. That's already like
Mhm.
a deep deviation from comic lore, and I don't mind like we've already disregarded a lot of that. So I don't give a shit. You know, like if you're gonna make Bane his son, fuck yeah, do it. It's even funny. I was late to the party on this movie. It took me years to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time I was already familiar with Joey King
Oh,
as an
yeah.
actor.
And you're like,
Um,
yes, okay.
I remember watching it for the first time like it's interesting that they had a little girl play a young Bane. You know, I'm like, why would they do that? And then it turns out I'm
Huh.
like, oh yeah, no, that's it
Probably
is a
right.
little girl.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the
yeah,
twist is
it
it's
works
okay.
within the context of the movie to a degree. Like in terms of the bones of the story they set up,
Hmm.
I get it. There is a moment that made me laugh out loud, burst out laughing, which is when she says his only crime was that he loved me.
Oh
I
my
just
God.
fucking lost it.
Yeah.
Brother, he was gonna nuke Gotham City.
Hey, but he loves her though. That's okay.
He
Also,
wanted to
what's
protect her.
going on there? Like, is he are they in love? Like, what is the
I
psychosexual
think like
ons
I
of the
think there's a loving uncle thing going on.
yeah,
I
because
think
it
he's just
can't
a fierce
be.
protector.
Yeah, she was
Um,
very young in that
yeah, no,
original.
but the grown up
Yeah.
like there's a,
I don't
well,
know.
that's the other thing too is
Is
that they
I don't know what that actress's name is, but she and Tom Hardy, like, how much of an age difference is there? Probably
not
nothing, right?
much.
Yeah.
She was also in Inception actually. She was the
Oh,
wife who Leonardo
Marion
DiCaprio loses, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, Marion Cotillard or
Cotillard. Yeah. Um,
Cotillard.
I don't know her really from anything else.
Cotillard. I don't know.
she's
She's
currently.
Is she French?
She's 48.
Like,
She's
real
48 right
accent?
now. That looks French to me.
yes, she's
Yeah, French
French.
actress.
She was born in Paris.
Yeah, she's 48, and good old Tom Hardy.
She might be older than Tom
Tom
Hardy
Hardy's
then.
46, so Tom Hardy's
Yeah,
2 years younger
I mean,
yeah.
I
than
guess
her.
his like final iteration as Bane, you can't really tell how old he
No,
is.
yeah. I mean, he's got the giant fucking mask on and stuff.
Yeah.
Dude's bald
It is
as
what it is.
well. Doesn't even look
Uh,
like Tom Hardy
He
really at
doesn't
all.
look like also.
Um,
It is
yeah,
weird. Every time I see it, I'm like, there's something so bizarre about this relationship. And I know they're villains and it's supposed to
well,
be, but
and it's also like there were like I would have been more okay with this movie. Like, I think it's just supposed to be one extra betrayal and twist
hmm
Mhm.
that she's actually the daughter of Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if the company had been swept out from underneath him by Ben Mendelsohn and he became the CEO and he was helping, and Bane was basically de facto in control of everything,
Mhm.
you take a giant storyline out of this movie that I think you could neatly take out and the movie would be just fine.
Yeah.
Like, and as far as adaptations are concerned, I appreciate that they were actually concerned with being like, oh, well, Ra's al Ghul had a daughter, not a son, so let's try and make Talia al Ghul a thing. Like, that's cool.
hmm
But if that's like, what are we doing with Robin then? Why do you give a shit about continuity if Robin's going to be a full grown ass man by the time he becomes Robin? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it is just a lot of the side characters take away from. I mean, it's cool to have them there, but I don't know what story they could have told. It just seems that not everything was quite there. The Bane, that's the thing, is that Bane is cool. Catwoman is cool. Batman, cool in that. Like everything is done well, and I don't think it's done in a disservice to the character, or the characters they played. It's just that there wasn't this is in no way close to the Dark Knight. Like the Dark Knight just has a different feeling when you're watching it. Like it's I don't know. Maybe it is that nighttime. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we need more nighttime Batman. Maybe that
Yeah.
is
I mean,
it. But
it could be that like it has this huge ensemble cast, but no like real team up. Like, yeah,
mm.
they do at the end kind of work together, but there's really no point at which these people who are just kind of all thrown in the same story feel like they're working as a team.
No, yeah, and again, I think that that's the thing though is that even if Bruce is isolated,
But
everyone else could kind of do something,
come together in a way that kind of feels like there's maybe some camaraderie. The fact that Batman and Robin don't do anything together and they're supposed to be like, if you're putting Robin in a story and there's no team up at all with Batman, like, what was the point?
blows my mind that that's the dude he's handing it off to. Also, like based
Also,
off the bones of this movie, of the actions taken in this film, like
yeah,
yeah, he's a good dude, but like you're like, fuck it, you get everything, bro.
I guess
Like,
yeah. I guess he knew he was Batman. He's like, well, I guess secret's already out with you, so that doesn't matter much. And I guess it didn't really hit me that he did just hang up the cape for a while after this. And Bruce Wayne became a complete recluse at the same time that this happened.
there's a
Um,
very stupid. And then also Batman blows up and then Bruce Wayne is dead. Like, He's the only
He
person in
died.
the
He died in the riots, et cetera, et cetera.
like,
Yeah, it's like
also when you see half of his face and hear his voice, like, okay,
yeah,
no one
was the
figured.
idea that people actually still believed that Harvey Dent was Batman, so Batman actually died with Harvey, you know?
No.
Because he came back
People
out
think
to save
Batman.
Harvey. Like,
Yeah,
People think Batman killed Harvey. That's the
yeah.
thing. That's like the
Oh,
driving force of
duh.
the movie.
Oh, hello.
Um,
Yeah, duh.
but
So yeah,
no, there's a really important line by Miranda when she's still Miranda that I think is supposed to be your only little inclination as to why people could possibly think Bruce Wayne disappeared. And it's she says something about the reactor that he created and how it failed so miserably that he became a recluse. Like
Mm,
that's how she spins it. So I'm guessing that maybe Bruce Wayne didn't become a recluse at the exact same time Batman disappeared. That would be kind of
I
stupid.
see. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, I
um,
guess. Hmm.
did he maybe stage that too? Like he staged this big failure so that he wouldn't have to.
that's possible. That is also possible.
Find the setup
Um,
of this movie to be kind of weak because we have this whole story with Batman is now a recluse. He's been not seen for 8 years, and then in like 20 minutes of this movie, he's out and about doing stuff again. And it's also one of those movies where like all of the exposition is tries to be disguised as dialogue, so it ends up being the
oh,
first like 30 minutes of this movie is very clunky. Oh my god.
there's a fucking horrendous little, and the only reason it could ever get away with anything is because Ben Mendelsohn is good at acting. But whenever he's explaining, just straight
Yeah.
up telling you what the clean slate protocol is, and he's like, oh, the thing where you can type in a name and a person's date of birth, and it wipes them away from every internet database in the country, in the world.
Or that
Yeah,
could
like,
like it's so ridiculous.
And then Bruce Wayne pulls up with a USB stick at the end and is like, "Here you go. It
Yeah.
actually does
Yeah.
exist."
Conveniently, it
Love
does
that.
exist.
Yeah,
Both of us,
and
I guess.
incredibly so. There is no mention of the clean slate between Bruce and Selena at all. She said, he asked her like, "Well, what do you want?" And she says like, "It's something that doesn't exist." Like she does not say that she wants the clean slate. And then the next time they meet, he comes back and he's like, "So my big guy, my big dog can get what you want, by the way." And it's like, well, I was like, how do you know what she wants? I guess maybe looked into her more. I don't know. He is Batman. He is, the greatest detective alive. But
yeah. No, I think that there's just like it it's comedic at points when it's not supposed to be comedic in terms of just like, and it's not because it's bad, it's because it's like it's just laughable. Like this is one of the only times where the complete unbelievability of something in a superhero movie actually hurts it for me. Like
Yeah.
because this movie is it feels like it's supposed to be like
that's definitely the angle. Yeah, Nolan.
this could be
It's
real. This could happen.
Nolan's
And I
angle.
think that like there are elements of this movie that could be real. Like if you want to take over the island of Manhattan, I don't know. There's a better way to do it.
Explosive, filled concrete. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes evil is just evil, and you gotta hate it. But you gotta at least acknowledge the
This is a
genius
master plan right here.
behind some of this stuff. Yeah, and the football scene was cool. Seeing a football
Oh yeah.
stadium explode.
Oh, there's
that
there's
was
a
cool.
ton of awesome stuff in this movie. Like
The plane sequence at the beginning.
The thing with Bane is that a lot of the stuff he does might objectively be worse than anything Joker does.
Mhm.
Like, what does Joker do besides blow up a hospital?
Yeah, Joker lets the people do all the chaos for him, but Bane is just he's kind of.
I'm pretty sure that in Joker's Reign of Terror, there's like 4 people who died.
Yeah. Whereas Bane like comes in and he is just like he
Actually
objectively
started a war. He closed off the island of Manhattan and said, "All right, let's go. I have
So-
Bruce Wayne. I have Batman's armory against the entire police that were trapped."
And I
in
did
the
like
tunnels.
there's a lot of stuff with Bane that I actually quite appreciated. Like there's this element to him where he's clearly not about what he says he's about, which I appreciate. I like that he's like, we will take it and give it back to you. the people. You know, that whole thing, like he doesn't give a shit about that. He doesn't give a flying fuck about that. He just wants to stoke fucking anarchy in this state so that like Ra's al Ghul's vision can come to fruition. You know, like that's it.
Which is the one thing about like him ending up, he actually isn't like the big bad of this movie. It's really Miranda
No.
Tate behind the whole thing, and I think that's once you know that twist, it does make it kind of interesting that like he really is just the muscle behind the whole thing.
He's a lackey.
So, yeah. And then once you know the twist with Miranda too, I think you see this whole movie in a very different way because every time she's on screen, you're like, yeah, I don't know why Bruce trusted her, to be honest.
Yeah,
there's really nothing.
He doesn't trust anyone. That's his whole thing. That is Batman's whole thing. Is he is paranoid for every little detail against everything. That's why his reactor failed. He didn't want to blow up the city. He doesn't trust a single person at all. He has protocols to kill every single one of his friends. But this random girl, I'm going to give you my company. I'm going to give you my reactor. I'm also going to fall in love with you, and I want you to be the one to sit across Alfred at my table. Like, literally, she was
also,
like, I don't know, it was kind of nuts.
Now, how the fuck did we get there?
He's so lonely and desperate. Like, is that what we're meant to believe?
Think he just got so low. He got so low. Dude was broke. They took all of his money. He had nothing. He just had his house, and he couldn't even get. He doesn't have Alfred anymore. You know, which I don't know how I feel about that. I do like the scene of him saying goodbye to Alfred. It makes me cry every time. Oh my god, I'm like a little baby whenever like. He's like in the letter to Rachel, you know, and like, I gotta say goodbye. You know, hearing your cries in these halls from whenever you were a little kid. I'm like, God damn it, Alfred! Like, you're too real. But like, why did he? What? I don't really think they should have split there. You know, I feel like that's the one guy that stays by Bruce's side, no matter what. Like, no matter how hard it gets, no matter what Bruce says to him, Alfred stays there. Like.
Which would have been maybe cool at the end if he came back for like some kind of team up with everybody. Like, actually, no, I'm gonna make Robin a cool suit, and like, kind of they felt like no one cared about each other in this movie, and also it felt like no one cared to be there in this movie, and I kind of get why it was probably upsetting for a lot of them to have to come.
Idea that after that confrontation, that Alfred went to Paris or wherever.
Yeah, insane.
Like, is that the idea that he just?
I guess so, because
and then he thought he died in the explosion, came back to, you know, for his funeral.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind that stuff with Alfred. I think the stuff with Alfred's like, I get where you're coming from. Alfred is supposed to be the guy who sticks by Bruce no matter what, and is always there for him, is always down to ride. But I think that makes it even more clear just how passionately he cares about him in the context of this film. He loves him so much that he's decided he can't be a party to him killing himself, which is ultimately what would have happened if Morgan Freeman hadn't bailed his ass out. You know, like he would have died if Lucius Fox did not put in a autopilot function on that fucking plane.
Yeah.
So like, I think that I went with Sir Michael Caine as my performance of the movie. I think he's fucking incredible. I think every scene he's on screen, he's excellent. One of my favorite moments that isn't funny, but will never not be funny anymore, ever again, because of a meme, is at the end whenever he is standing at the grave and he's like, "I failed you. Like, I'm sorry." You know, like he's talking to the parents' graves and he's like, "I failed you. I'm so sorry." And he's like sobbing and he's sobbing. There's a meme that says across the bottom of the screen, "Bane is like the scariest guy I've ever seen in my life," and it's his face while he's crying during that scene. So I just always imagine Bane is like the scariest guy I've ever seen in my life. You know, like I always.
Oh my god!
It always guts. But regardless, he's so fucking good. He is so goddamn good in this movie. Like, I punched him in like 15 minutes into this movie. It was extrememally early on that I went ahead and punched him in.
You know, he gives definitely one of the few very moving moments in this movie are usually due to him.
that
I
is
wonder if another thing that
probably
I
be
have a
right.
problem with the whole Alfred leaving is that I never feel like Bruce feels pathetic enough in this movie. Like a lot of bad things happen to him, and he never really feels deeply pathetic. Like, yeah, he gets hurt. Yeah, he goes to the hole. Yeah, he like needs to discover himself or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like he never gets to the point where you're like, oh my God, he's in bad shape.
Yeah, everything is
Yeah,
fixed
I
pretty
tend to I
easily.
tend to agree with that. But besides the pit, like
Pit's pretty
there
awesome.
isn't a
Like,
helplessness.
happens to him except that he has to recover from his injuries. It's not like he's humiliated in the pit. It's not like he's not taken care of. It's not like he's having to fight everyone. Like he's just kind of there. He has one vision of Ra's al Ghul, and then it's just like, oh,
Well, to
like I
be
don't know. I feel like
fair,
it could.
he was
Hmm?
humiliated to probably the most he could be versus Bane.
That's true.
Yeah.
But he got
In the
like that.
darkness. I mean, that's probably the most
That's one of the
memorable.
better parts of the movie,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's
Oh
probably the
yeah.
most memorable part of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
I remember everyone like going around school just talking in Bane's
You
voice,
think
like,
the
"Oh, the
darkness is your ally.
darkness, yeah, the darkness." Like, that was
I
everyone
was
was
born in
saying it. Yeah,
it, molded by it.
and
Can I
You
just say
merely
one thing
adopted the
about Bane's
dark.
voice?
hmm,
Does no one else think he sounds like Winnie the Pooh?
Winnie the Pooh.
It's something that I hadn't watched the movie in a couple years before the most recent viewing. His voice is nowhere near as deep as I thought it was. The dude is so like it.
I was waiting for him to say like, "Oh bother" the whole time. I'm like, what is this voice that they?
Oh, Father. Yeah.
Wow, I'm
No,
not.
that's spot fucking on. That is spot fucking on.
Yeah,
Sounds just
well,
like Winnie
that
the
takes
Pooh.
me out of the character a little bit. I don't know why Tom Hardy's in this role, to be honest, but okay.
Man,
Yeah, I think like no, I agree. I
that's
think that
true. That's so
there's
true.
many not beyond back in 2005 with Ra's al Ghul being uh
Liam
Liam
Neeson.
Neeson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I saw an argument recently where I became a little bit more okay with that choice, which was subverting the expectations 4 years after the events of 9/11, where the villain would not be a Middle Eastern gentleman, would not be an Asian gentleman, would be a white guy, and that's like, oh, like he's the terrorist, the white guy is the terrorist, like that's, and I'm like, okay, like he wanted to in a across a filmography that has been notoriously heralded by many, not by me, but by many as conservative in Christopher Nolan. That could have been an even further step in that direction had
No,
Ra's al
I
Ghul
still
not
don't
been a
think
white
that
guy.
he could have done that in a way, and I don't think that he could have done Bane in a way that was culturally accurate, and also like, I just don't think that he probably could have pulled that off. I
Yeah,
just think that like, in terms of Tom Hardy, my reasoning for choosing him is much more shallow than that because the best part of Tom Hardy are his like ginormous pouty lips, and they're covered up the whole time.
that's true.
So you
That's
don't
true.
have his voice,
Yeah.
you don't have his face.
Yeah.
Why is
Is
he?
he in a set? Like, is he just in a booth recording all of his lines, or is he saying some stuff behind the mat? I guess I've never even looked into that.
I'm assuming that it's a mix of both. I'm assuming that there's some sort of voice modulator in his mask that is kind of changing the way he sounds, but
Hmm.
um I mean, it's not changing the way he sounds like crazy. It's more just giving it like an echoey sound. Like that's his voice. It's just adding an atmosphere to it, Like that's
True.
all that it's doing. Uh
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, no, and that's the thing is I typically enjoy Tom Hardy a great deal, and I think he's good. Like he's good. It's not like it's like, oh,
It's
he's
like
terrible in this
where did we
role. No.
come to this conclusion that like it has to be Tom Hardy in this role where I feel like the Tom Hardiness of it is like not even utilized.
The only thing that I think is like I don't know who else might have brought this to the role is the physicality of Bane,
Dude.
like the strength and litheness, like the mix of speed and just power was pretty fucking incredible. Like the dude's the physicality he brought to the game. He had that girth.
He did.
He
I've
did.
used that only once before to quote Martin Scorsese, and that was Adam Driver and Ferrari. But
Mm, mm.
Tom Hardy has that girth in this role.
Yeah.
He fills up the screen,
No,
and
he looks great. It's just
oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that when he fought Batman there,
No, I mean like the movement, like the dude, and there's probably a lot of stunt work in there. It's probably not all Tom Hardy, so it's like,
Hey, his
but
monologuing though, he was every time he monologued, I thought he was doing a great job. Like that, I thought that was his strength. I think the
Yeah.
physicality and that is good, but like when he strolls out on the football field, talking to Gotham on the the little headset, introduce yourself to the world, and kills the scientist right there,
yeah, with the
not knowing that's
microphone, he breaks his neck while holding the microphone, so everybody in the stadium
yeah.
hears his crack.
I think
Um,
it's more of like the presence that it's not like
That's
through
fair.
what he says and stuff, but like even whenever Gordon goes down in the sewers and then falls, in the water, and the guy's like, he asks, "Where does that come out?" And the guy's like, "Oh, I have no idea. It could come out at so many different places." And just no words spoken, puts the little tracker on him. Yeah, follow him. It's like
Yeah.
it's those little moments that I really love
Yeah.
from his Bane. But yeah, making it, if they wanted to go the whole culturally accurate route with Bane and everything, I think that's a whole nother thing that they have to throw on top of this movie. It's like they're already trying to do so much with every other character that like I don't know what you pick out or what you
well, and here's
change
the
or like
thing: is that the part of the reason that he's also a white guy is because for a good percentage of this movie, you think he's Liam Neeson's son.
that's
Fair.
true. Yeah.
Fair.
Like that's
Mm-hmm.
they also had to do that if they were going to make that part of the twist.
Man, yeah, I don't know who to go with for performance, like or character.
Yeah, I went
Really.
Michael Caine.
Like,
I think Christian Bale is also solid.
Yeah.
Can't really go wrong there. He's
yeah,
he's just a good
he
actor.
did great, and I was trying to spread the love with some other actor, like Anne Hathaway. She did great when she was on screen. I almost went with her.
She's very like derided for this role though.
Hmm?
People do not like her as Catwoman.
Really?
Which is surprising. I
Really?
went with her for my character.
I went with her
I
for my
love
character too.
Okay.
I loved her.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I think
Really? People don't like
very
her?
Hathaway period of time where they just didn't want to see her in anything. And I do think that this is just based on the other roles that she had done at this point, this is a weird choice for her.
Mhm.
And I do think some of her physicality does look a little bit awkward, but I think she's the only one who seems like she's enjoying being there. And the only one who pulls off the very cheesy lines that she's given.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I went with her for my character. Also because in my head, since the Batman, I've kind of gone with Zoe Kravitz as the definitive on-screen version
Yeah.
of Catwoman. And I still kind of go with that just because of the characterization and the relationship to Bruce. And I think the relationship with Bruce in this movie is actually like everything with Catwoman was much better than I remembered.
Yes, I totally agree. I was like, wow, they actually do have a fair amount of chemistry. Way more than he had with Maggie, what's her name? Gyllenhaal.
Maggie Gyllenhaal. Yeah. And Marion Cotillard in this movie. Like also like
for sure.
astoundingly washing in terms of pretty much every relationship he's had besides the one with Katie Holmes. Like Katie Holmes is the only other one where I think that the chemistry even kind of matches here. But just again, like I think there's a certain physicality. There are some things that are a little odd about Anne Hathaway in the role, but like whenever she departs from the bike and like her leg swings from the camera, like across her face, like you don't even see where her leg is coming from. It just swings by, and you're like, "Yep, that's Catwoman."
It's so random, and I don't know if anyone else will appreciate this, but I mean, this movie came out in like 2013, 14.
Mm-hmm.
She very much reminds me of Taylor Swift in this era too. Like it reminds me very much of like the way Taylor Swift used to dance and like move, like that kind of very beautiful, but also kind of awkward in a way.
No, yeah, I completely get where you're coming from there. Yeah, a little bit of a Reputation era Taylor there.
Very much.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why people weren't liking her as Catwoman, because I was like, I don't
People
know.
were so
There's an era.
In Oscar for Les Mis. After that, they were just kind of like sick of her.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get it though. I never participated in that Anne Hathaway slander. I just want to say that for the record. Never will, never have. And
I fucking love Anne Hathaway, dude.
Of course.
Yeah, she was. I don't
dude,
know
she's
all
incredible, and like,
the
I,
thumbprint like scenes, and she's
mhm.
like,
Oh,
you're
right.
gonna need the thumb. What are you gonna do without it? And she's acting all helpless, and and then she finally turns the tables and is like, oh well, I don't know. You did just call whatever
From
that guy
his
was,
phone,
the
Just
yeah.
other
go
And then when
right.
cop
the
or
cops
whatever.
come in, she's like, "Help,
Yeah,
help!"
yeah, like
Like that whole thing,
yeah,
fucking great.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
You know what? I think I'll give her the performance. Actually,
good shit.
I
Wait,
kind of
wait.
want. Yeah, she got your character. I'll give her the performance as well. She'll get a little clean sweep, um, a little bit. Cause
I think
yeah,
she deserves it, man. Like she's incredible in this role, and like Claire said, she's the only one who, I mean, the only even relatively well written woman character in the Nolan trilogy, again, besides Katie Holmes in Batman Begins. Um,
yeah.
and even then, she's still pretty one dimensional with a simple sort of shift in motivations towards the end of her arc to kind of be like, oh, she's changed, like
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that. I'm a sucker for it, so like I'll take it. But yeah, no, I enjoy her a great deal, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful little part she plays in this role. So I always tend to like her. And yeah,
Yeah.
she actually this was a big year for Anne Hathaway. She was in a $1 billion grossing movie in July of 2012, and then in December she was in Les Mis, which won an Oscar. Um,
Okay.
her an Oscar. She won supporting, and also she won the Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actress for this movie, and she was
Oh,
also nominated for her Oscar-winning role in Les Mis in the same category. So she was nominated for 2 Saturn
Okay.
Awards in the same year, and one for The Dark Knight Rises over Les Mis, which is I don't know how you come to that conclusion, but hey, it
Huh.
is do you? Um,
See how
yeah.
people can maybe get tired, in air quotes, of Anne Hathaway. Then seeing her a little too much, maybe I don't know, but I don't think I'll ever get
it's not
tired
me.
of Anne Hathaway.
Oh
In my
no.
opinion. So
Oh no.
yeah.
My
Uh,
little fun
Yeah.
fact about that too is the only other woman who's ever won an Oscar for her role in a musical is Julie Andrews in
Damn.
Mary Poppins. So it's like her, and obviously they did Princess Diaries together. So I like
wow.
that.
That's cool. Yeah, that is cool. I've never thought about that. Yeah, no, that's
All right. Well,
I fucking love Anne Hathaway, and she'd been nominated
She's
for an Oscar.
she's very charismatic. You just like her on screen. It's
Mhm.
also a great Catwoman suit.
Oh, absolutely.
Really
the
good costume.
Absolutely.
The
the
little head
ears and the yeah, those are some cool ear glasses thing. I don't know what to
ears.
call them.
Red lenses and
Yeah.
stuff, yeah. Now
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Selena Kyle Catwoman. That's one of my favorite,
Yeah.
probably aside from Batman, my favorite character in Batman lore, and even maybe including Batman. So anytime I think besides Halle Berry's Catwoman, when we're looking at Michelle Pfeiffer, Anne Hathaway, and Zoe Kravitz and their portrayals in those movies, that's fucking 3 for 3 right there. When Catwoman is a supporting
She's
character
too.
in a Batman movie,
Mm-hmm.
damn has she been cold.
Every
I've
time.
loved that character.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I picked Michelle Pfeiffer for either character or performance back when we did Batman Returns as well. So, um,
And they're three very different portrayals. Like Michelle Pfeiffer's is very much like she went insane, and then Anne Hathaway's is very much like, well, also Zoe Kravitz, like you have to do what you have to do, but Selena Kyle in this one is much more like a high profile criminal,
oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
whereas this is a little bit more like street
yeah,
level.
she's on the come up. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, no, like she's feels like she's like top 10 most wanted type shit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I appreciate that, and I love that. That's one of those things that I'm always a sucker for with the relationship between Bruce and Selena. Is that like this is everything you would think he would absolutely not be down with, but he just cannot help himself. And I
Yeah.
absolutely love
Yeah,
that.
that's his whole thing.
Um,
He gets in with the worst. Usually, the women that he's in a relationship with aren't the most mentally stable women. Usually, that he usually finds one like himself, uh,
yeah,
or
would
or
agree.
just if they are crazy enough to get with Batman in the first place, you got to probably be somewhere yourself. But no, she seemed kind of the most sane. Um, well, Zoe Kravitz is pretty sane, actually. No,
Yeah,
she's
no,
pretty.
she's just much. They have completely different motivations
Yeah.
than in this movie versus the Batman.
They're
Mm-hmm.
kind of inspiration. Like I get she's desperate in this movie, but I think Zoe Kravitz is a little bit more desperate. for things that she has to do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Like, and there's a much more revenge angle with Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, whereas this is just
She wants to live.
there's a bunch of stuff that Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman still has to do to eventually reach this point that Anne Hathaway's
Yeah.
Catwoman is at.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a cool place to introduce the character, especially at the end of a trilogy. You know, like if you know this character's not going to show up again, I think it's cool that she's been Catwoman. She has been Selena Kyle. She's been doing this thing. So I think that that's a cool way to kind of drop us into the world and kind of be like, again, you were talking about the world building earlier. Like that's a pretty cool small piece of world building to imply that she's been at it for a long time.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah,
Bruce hanging up
I'm
the
a big
cape.
proponent of her in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did like her. I'm glad she got some nods though. 2 characters in a performance, but I had to give Bruce something, or Christian Bale something, and I think the character work done here is actually nice. I like the making him. I love anytime like Tom Holland getting his suit taken away and he's all back down to his roots. It's kind of. I mean, this came out before that, so I'm not trying to say that they're trying to copy Tom Holland. I'm just saying like the trope of a superhero kind of being put back to ground zero and having to. Yeah, I love that trope, and he has to lose everyone. It is hard, but then seeing him do what he has to do, make that sacrifice play. Even though, when does he hop out? That's my question. When does he just hop out and dive in the water? Does he land somewhere, hop out, turn the autopilot on, then go? What's the order of operations?
Maybe over the water, and he's too far away for us to see, and then knowing him, he probably freaking swims back to shore. I don't know.
So
yeah,
he jumped out. It wasn't that he dropped the bomb and then turned around and then he was out of the plane and the plane just kept going until it exploded,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay. In my head canon, because he has the autopilot. I guess like he knows he has it, but he's obviously like playing it up as this is his death, whatever. But there's like he's going up and he shoots some like missiles. He like explodes like a building. Because maybe he doesn't think he's gonna make it all the way or something, so he has to kind of explode. And in that explosion, when all the people are looking away and they're like, "Oh, this is it," that's whenever Robin. It feels weird to call him Robin. Like God, I don't know. It just feels stupid.
No, what's funny is you can call him that. That's his actual name.
That's his legal name. That is such a funny reveal too.
Yeah. Oh.
So like even there's a moment in Oppenheimer that kind of echoes this incredibly. But even that works a lot better. You should go by your legal name, Robin. I like that. That's fucking stupid. That's so stupid. I hate that.
Crazy first name. Okay, that's fine.
I cannot stand that, and I've never.
So it's hysterical.
Regardless of adaptation,
at that point in the movie, you're like, "Oh, this is what we're doing." Okay, so that
I just, frankly, I wish they weren't obviously building to something else. Like they were trying to be like, we might do a whole Joseph Gordon-Levitt led Nightwing thing or whatever the fuck. Like I think that's. Frankly, I'd have no interest in that anyway. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is fine.
He's so fine. Boring in this movie. How is he this boring as Robin? Like, how do we not?
Okay, I looked at him closer this movie, because I've always been one to be like, wow, what a crappy little end twist to be like, I'm Robin, whatever, and like taking over the mantle. But I'm like, okay, let me get that out of my head and just watch him without that. And I thought, it was like whenever Gordon is in his hospital bed and whoever that other, fucking dick.
Foley
guy that's trying to take Gordon's place. But Gordon's like, oh, no, you don't need your uniform anymore. You're a detective now. Like you.
One of us now.
Yeah, you don't get to believe in coincidence or whatever, or no. Something, I don't know, something about coincidence.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's what you're talking. Like you're right.
Like I don't know. I thought it was really cool for him to, go out on his own. He kind of had his own kind of crime story in itself, and he finds the kid, goes back to the, the foster home, makes a visit with Bruce. He kind of is just going on his own, and it doesn't really get anywhere substantial, but it's just to
I
further
mean,
the
like
story along,
he's
barely.
got a. They just show that he has a mind of his own and he does what he thinks is right above his orders, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a good thing to do for a character. I think that,
You know,
like, I think his inclusion in this movie is fine. I get why he's there, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in this movie that I get why it happened.
mhm.
I get why we're there. I get the logic behind it, and I still just do not like it. There are elements of this movie that I do not like.
I think I could get behind him more as Robin if he was a little less cynical. Like he's very cynical in this movie. He's very like he doesn't like. I guess I always think of like Chris O'Donnell's Robin, and not saying that that would be appropriate here, but just like you imagine that there's a little bit of naivete with Robin. You imagine that
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of like idealism. I just don't feel like he really embodies that. And I feel like if anyone is his mentor in this movie, it's Gordon and not Batman.
Yeah,
That's very
yeah,
true.
no,
Yeah, yeah. Robin, I guess you want him to be a kid for one, and like it just works better when it's a child, and all of those qualities just kind of happen in
yeah.
children. It's
That's
just.
like the cynicism comes from him being a fucking adult, and I think that that's
Mm-hmm.
like a fully grown man who never, he grew up in the system, and it seems like he eventually graduated from the system. Like he reached 18 and that was it. It wasn't like it was
Mm-hmm.
he got adopted or he was fostered anywhere. Like he
Yeah,
reached
but
18
the thing
and
is,
knew he was
why
out
does that
on.
character then care about Batman so much? Why does that character who is so cynical and doesn't really believe in like this or whatever, why is he
Hmm.
so obsessed with this symbol of
I guess
really something that is hopeful and idealistic?
he said that they used to make stories about him. That's like the god orphan,
You don't really
like
see any,
billionaire orphan, like.
yeah,
But
but
yeah,
he
and then
thinks to
he
grow up
knows
and be
it's
like, oh,
Batman.
he's not
Hmm.
going to save me, like
Hmm.
it doesn't signify to me.
No, I get you. I do for sure. I think that there's just a lot of there's a lot of dissonance in the storytelling here. I
Mm-hmm.
one of my least favorite things about the movie is the final war, the final battle.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that has lended those conversations about Nolan's filmography being a touch, right leaning. I get it. Again, I get it. I get its utility within the story. I understand why it is the cops versus the prisoners. Why you are doing a general version of good versus bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's terrible optically, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Very
I get
to watch.
I hate it.
It's
It's actually my least favorite thing in any Batman
and the
movie, and I
thing is,
think that that's
previously we had seen a little bit more of like the people of Gotham or like themselves rising up and being better than you'd expect them to be. We had that beautiful scene in the last movie where you realize the prisoners are not evil. They are, willing to sacrifice themselves for the citizens. And it's like, what happened here?
Nope. The people
yeah,
are
that's
bad. The people are criminals. The people are just
The
bad.
criminals
It is
are
that's
bad.
it. That's it. There's
I
no
think you
good.
could have gotten a much, much better movie out of this if and I guess there's been a big shift. It's been a long time. The Dark Knight, like if Bane's force is the police, and I get why they're not, but
Mhm.
if that's who he corrupted and got to his side, it'd be a much bigger indictment of the system that he himself gets to tear down, and it would speak much higher of Gordon and Robin. Like it'd be like
Mm.
they refuse to answer that call. Meanwhile, most of this movie is just the cops are stuck underground. Whoops.
The
Like
cops are
like
underground, and we have court in session, and it's just we're killing everybody. We're killing everybody that is not a criminal. We're either letting you walk out on some ice or killing you. We don't see any how they actually execute people. It
Death by exile.
seems to be by
yeah,
exile every time. Yeah, it seems that's just how it works. But I love that
very well death
that's
by
Killian.
exile.
Yeah,
Killian
Yeah,
Killian
Cillian
Murphy.
Murphy's
Murphy's role in here is
Yeah.
just the judge, I guess. I don't know what. Yeah, um, yeah, it is. That is a very strange way to go about making a war in Gotham. You know, it could have just been a pure people war. It really, I mean,
Yeah.
like the criminals versus the people that were like, "Oh, we're not doing this again. We're not letting a Joker type come in our city and try to give us these ultimatums, blah blah blah." And like we're done with this shit. We're fighting back.
It's
No,
like, where are the civilians in this movie?
That's the thing too,
hiding
is
in their
that like,
homes. Like, that's
yeah,
what the
like
one
they're
cop guy does. He lets his wife open the door, and that Gordon's like, "Really, dog? You're gonna let your
dude.
wife
Yeah.
come to the door while the city is currently in the state that it's in?" That's like what? So what are the people thinking? That someone in the city has the detonator.
You'd think that would cause like people to be rioting or killing each other.
Yeah,
Organized.
it
Some
doesn't like is the idea that the bomb is going to go off.
no, they don't
No,
know that.
so they think that the bomb won't go off. It's just
Yeah,
if the trigger man makes it go off.
yes,
Decides. Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's
And I get that the city's under martial law, so there's not a lot of opportunity for organization within the civilians. Like they're probably shutting that sort of shit down. But like Bane's side where he's like, "We give it back to you, the people." That's one of my favorite line deliveries in the movie, by the way. That's why I keep coming back to it. But
yeah.
uh
We'll give you the
it's
power to blow up your entire city and
yeah.
kill
And
but
everyone.
they don't show that people flock to either side. It's not like Bane's side is full of fucking civilians who are like, "Fuck it, yeah." No, it's not. Like, and that's why it's like,
what's the point of this?
what's the point of this idea then? Like, what if you were going to make it clear that you were trying, like, Bane's motivation, like what he's saying is to motivate the people to look out for themselves and
Hmm.
to have their own livelihoods essentially. Like the fact that we never spend any time with them radicalizing to one side or the other, like, is fascinating and I think a huge oversight.
And I
Um
think it's weird too because, like you guys said, like the bomb's going off anyway, and Bane knows this. And it's almost like it would be really interesting if the storyline focused on like the threat of the bomb made everyone go crazy, and at the end they realize like there's no overcoming it. So like we all kind of have to stick together because you can't. There's nothing we can do about it. We thought that we could, and we can't. And that never like comes to anything. I feel like it could have been cool if it did.
Yeah, I wonder. I think they were just trying to. They were putting all the cards in the twist, being
Yeah.
the big hit of the movie, not like needing that people's revolution necessarily. It's like let's try this big twist for the end.
And then, like, here's the other thing. Like, it's again, the problem is that it's bloated. There's too much going on. If you wanted the twist to hit, then my favorite part of the movie, Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, can't be here. You
Yeah.
have to,
Mhm.
like, I don't give a shit about the betrayal by Miranda Tate
We don't care
because
about
he's clearly got a thing going with someone else and it's
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
100%. Also, like I think that she is probably Miranda Tate is probably my least favorite part of this movie in terms of her character, but also in terms of the acting. I
oh my
mean,
God.
the acting is
I
really
feel
rough.
so bad. I never like
I
down
know.
anybody's performance.
I never want to say that, and it's probably direction. A lot of it's probably direction, but the
A
death scene,
lot of one take and we're moving on, if I had to
yeah,
guess.
It felt like it.
Her death,
her death scene is
what
so.
Why?
the fuck?
Why, dude? Yes.
And I
What
the
is
thing is,
up with that?
they got the wrong take, and they were like, "Well, that's all we got, so we got to use it." But like, I don't know.
It was
It's
not.
so
I
bad.
mean, that was like high school making a video for class death.
Really.
I mean, I don't like that was. It was funny. It was kind of funny. Like, and
It's the
whenever she stabbed Bruce, I kind of laughed too. I don't know why. It's just like this little ass knife. I mean, I know getting stabbed hurts, but it's like it's
Yeah.
Batman.
yeah,
He
and he's
probably
totally
gets stabbed all the time. Like I don't know. Like it's bad. Like I know that this does. He's still a human, and it will hurt
Yeah.
him. But like just this little like. I'm Ra's al Ghul's daughter, and it's like it's just this little. I don't
Again,
know.
just a massive
Um,
exposition drop about the origins of her and Bane there,
mhm,
and like
yeah.
I, and again, coming back to Bane, Bane is he is a character unto himself. Like it's not like every Batman movie adaptation we've gotten of Bane, Batman and Robin, and this, He is the lackey of somebody else. Like, he is the mindless oaf who doesn't know what to do besides what he's told. And that's not what Bane is. And that annoys me a little.
Yeah, no, I guess he had, he did have some smarts to him. It didn't seem that everything was ran by Miranda, but like he did some. Well, yeah, no, not really. Everything was kind of ran by her.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one, I guess, putting the tracker on the dude, making him follow Gordon, kind of good on you there. I guess that's maybe the one decision he made on his own.
Did that lead them to Gordon?
No, because
just Blake pulling Gordon out of the water.
Yeah, he knew where the bodies were, so he just got there before them.
But why did he know where the bodies were?
Because he picked up the other orphan kid that died before there at the same time.
That's right. That's
right. He's been traipsing around the Narrows in his spare time, whatever. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Isn't it miserable life? That's fine.
No, that's like ultimately, I have a good time with the movie. I think that I especially specifically for Bruce's character, like they do a lot of good stuff with Batman. They really do. I think that there's my favorite scene is when he gets out of the pit. Love it. Triumphant hero moment. Absolutely adore it. And my favorite line is whenever he looks at Jim at the end of the movie and he's like, a hero can be anyone.
It's the line. Yeah.
Even if it's just putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders and telling them that everything's going to be okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
The college humor Batman will forever change the game of how I hear Christian Bale's Batman voice.
I love the way his mouth hangs open.
At that line,
he's always got the bottom lip out.
I see. Yeah.
Always like this.
It's probably got to be painful to talk like that.
I don't know how he didn't destroy his voice with doing that.
Yeah.
No, but I don't think he had any help.
Yeah, that was the line I ended up going with too, though. It was finally Gordon gets to know,
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, finally Gordon. Like, I love how Robin, he's in the know the whole time, just doesn't fucking tell Gordon whatsoever. Yeah. I guess it is kind of a thing between Bruce. It is a very personal thing, the identity, but I love how Gordon's just always the guy. He's been the guy that's closest to Batman the whole time throughout all three of these movies, but has no fucking clue that he's Batman. And he's the detective in Gotham as well.
Yeah. I thought that he did know that Bruce was Batman. So rewatching the series has been, I thought that he found out. I thought he found out in Batman Begins. So I was like, wow, I didn't realize that he had no idea the entire time.
Right. Like one of my favorite moments in the movie that kind of shows that Gordon respected Batman too much and what he stood for to ever make him feel like he needed to tell him, because there's that moment whenever Robin tells him, like, do you want to know who he is?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he's like, up? And he's like, he's Batman, like that's, and Gordon's like, he's Batman, like that's okay with me. He's like, you really don't want to know who he is, like,
one of the last things he says to Bruce is, I've never cared who you are, but everyone should know who saved them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like that is the whole point of Batman, is that it doesn't need to be a specific person, that it is more of the symbol. And I guess, I don't know, Gordon was kind of a non-factor as well, just kind of hurt early on and then in a hospital bed the rest of the movie. So that kind of sucks a little bit. I mean, he is incredible. But they
kind of do what they do in X-Men movies with Charles Xavier, where they like sideline him so that he can't have a huge impact throughout the movie, because most problems can be solved if Professor X is just like capable of solving them. So like Gordon and Batman being out of the city and nobody being able to like it makes sense that they have nobody to organize under. Like they don't have anybody to be like, this is our leader, so we don't like but like I appreciate that whenever Gordon is let out of the hospital and he's like, they need to know that I can lead. They need to know that I can take care of them. They need to know that I'm here, like and then Bane's like, from the words of your police commissioner,
yeah.
Okay, and plot line too, where he finds out because he has the speech in his coat pocket. I don't know.
Well, and also, what kind of credibility does this man possess?
It's It's also like handwritten on loose leaf too. I'm like, what? I don't know. It's very much a contrivance. He's also been in the water, I'm pretty sure. So how does that even legible? Um,
The civilian population watching this on TV, like, damn, this guy who's threatening to blow up the whole city might have a point about Gordon.
Gotta
You
trust
yeah,
know,
this guy. Gotta
yes.
trust this guy. Yeah.
No, that's one of the again, I can give a lot of, leeway to stuff that happens in superhero movies, but that one feels particularly ridiculous in how they decided to reveal that.
Yeah,
yeah. I
there's just
mean,
a lot of things at the end of the movie that just feel a little rushed. Like a little like, all right, we're here. This is how it all happened. You've seen the twist.
right.
Now let's just kind of, all right, I got like, why does it feel like there's another movie coming? Why? End the trilogy. Make it satisfactory. Don't like lead me on to be like, wait, is there another Nolan Batman movie coming? Like, I don't know. Maybe that was in the plan at some point,
Like,
but
was Gordon-Levitt really gonna headline a trilogy? Like,
That's my thing. Is like, don't get me wrong. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fine.
I like,
This is the guy he plays, though. Like, this is what he does. This is his whole fucking brand. This is
it's
and I
true.
just don't think it's Robin. I don't think that it's a compelling
no, and
Robin.
it's certainly not Nightwing. Like that dude's, like that's
Mm-mm.
it,
Like I said, why am I not? I feel like we should all be like a little bit in love with him. Like I don't know.
No, I agree. I agree. Like, there's a charm about. I'm assuming he's supposed to be like. That's the thing is that you can't even be like Dick Grayson because he's not Dick
Yeah,
Grayson. Like,
exactly.
He
and
is legally Robin.
what he
Robin.
goes by Blake. What's his first name? Is it like his first name? Did we ever get a
Yeah, I
name?
don't know.
They said at the end when he's getting his stuff, he's because I didn't realize that I was listening for it this time. He says Blake John, I think is what it is.
John Blake. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
No,
Robin John Blake. Like, and then you could go like, there's a Robin named Tim Drake. So like, if there's like, what are we doing here? Like, what? It's just I hate it. I hate it. You know, I don't like
it's
that
like
at all.
the only thing that you're waiting for at that point is for him to be like, yeah, my parents were gymnasts. Like
Yeah.
like you're just waiting for it to be that.
Yeah.
And
My
my
parents.
circus was where my parents were killed.
Yep.
Like, you're
That's
just waiting for that ridiculous moment to come full circle, and you're like,
yeah.
okay,
No, for sure. It's
Man.
it's.
That's the thing is that I'm kind of saying all these things, but I still have it at like, yeah, where do I have? I have this at 14 on my list of every movie that we've covered so far. So it's like I feel
Yeah.
like I'm dogging on this movie like a lot. Like I'm saying more bad things than good, but like it is
I think
still a
And I
Nolan
think
made
there's
movie.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
no.
like
Yeah.
at the end of
It,
the
the thing
day.
is that it's a letdown compared to a excellent first two installments of a trilogy, and even then, it's not like it's bad. Like it's still solid. It's fine. It's just that it's so overstuffed that there's too much it's trying to accomplish and nothing ends up getting fleshed out enough, which is a wild dissonance to have, but it's what's wrong with this movie. It's and I think that ultimately like cuz we talked a lot about the negatives like with Batman, like I think there's very little negative you could say about the portrayal of Batman in this movie and the journey that character goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's extremely compelling.
Oh yeah.
I think that you know, you said something about Alfred earlier. I don't particularly mind that because it does lend itself to that lonesomeness that Bruce is experiencing.
It does work
Um,
for Bruce, definitely. Yeah, like to make him completely
it's just like
alone.
if you want to hammer home that lonesomeness,
yeah.
why are we introduced? Why do we got Miranda Tate up here? Why is this being introduced? I don't love it. I don't love it. But regardless, I get that it's like, oh, he's been so lonely that he needs the company of somebody, so he picks her. But regardless, I just think that there's a lot going on, and it has a tough time finding what it's aiming for by the end, you know, with all of it.
Mhm.
Um,
One positive thing I will say about it, though, is that I do love that Batman gets to have a happy ending. I think there's
yes,
something really cool about that
Ah,
because I don't think anyone's really.
I adore the ending. I
Yeah, I
adore the
really
ending.
like this
oh,
movie.
it is nice, and the setup that Alfred gives. I've had
I see myself.
this fantasy. And oh man, I gotta love Michael
You
Caine.
trust
I'm
me.
glad he
Because you,
got the performance from you. But no, and then
sitting there,
getting it out at the end.
and you look at me, and I'd look at you, and I'd know you made it.
We
You know,
wouldn't need to speak a single word. We just know
I'd know
it's
you made it.
and yeah. I mean, he takes a little sip. I mean, takes a look and he gets up.
Dude,
He was
I
like,
love it.
oh,
I'm a sucker for it. And it
oh,
would
Yeah,
have been even better if we cut to black on Christian Bale's face there at the end.
I
Uh,
think it would have been perfect.
it would have been perfect. But instead, we're like, look at this guy. Look at Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Hey, he's rising. I
And then
think
you're
it's
like, okay.
even just editing like that. Like, you know what? We can do all that editing
You
choice.
know that's
Make the
there
cut
though,
back to
too.
him rising before you cut back to Christian Bale looking at Michael Caine.
dang.
Yeah. Why does he know that the Batcave is there though?
Yeah, he had
When
coordinates
he
written down on a napkin and I'm like, well, how did you get that though? I'm like, where did that
It's
come
just
from?
again, he has no relationship with Bruce Wayne. So why are we pretending that he is the next?
Maybe there's something where he's like, I know that Bruce Wayne was Batman. Maybe he's just like spelunking Wayne Manor to try and figure out where he keeps his Batman shit. I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting how I guess the bat, the like actual flight, the helicopter he had, maybe he like looked into where it flew away, and
right.
then like because it had to go back to Wayne Man. I don't know, but yeah, he did find
And
that Batcave pretty easily.
Bruce, I wouldn't question it. It's just that he doesn't.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, he does.
Hey,
Spider-Man
man.
swing up in there too, with a
Yep.
a cable just kind of pops in there.
Right through the waterfall outside. Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's fine. It is what it is. I do not have it quite as high as 14. I have this at 19.
Mm, okay.
Uh, below, it would be my fourth highest Batman movie,
And
or fifth behind The Dark Knight, Mask of Phantasm, Batman Begins, Batman Returns, Dark Knight Rises.
These are-
okay,
these are
okay.
me.
Yeah, I think now. Okay, I do have it above the X Men movies, which X2 and X Men, which does sound kind of ridiculous now that I'm saying it out loud. Um, and yeah, I think I like it better than Watchmen. So yeah, that actually that looks a lot better. It sits at 18 now, for me. I had it right below Batman Begins. So even then before, I did have it at the of this
Yeah,
trilogy
this
at
is one
number
of those
3.
ones where I had it
Um,
somewhere and then we talked about it and I was like, boop, boop,
Yeah.
boop, boop, boop.
Damn. Yeah, that
Okay,
doesn't
I'm
usually
down.
happen much. Usually it goes the other way. I guess that might be a testament to Nolan. It is like we know what you can do. We saw The Dark Knight. We
Mhm.
know what your standard is. Let's, and
But I
it's
think it also speaks to the fact that directly after coming off a watch of this movie, you're like, I had a good time.
Oh yeah, no, and ultimately, like, it's all about where your focus is, and we focused a lot on the stuff that is wrong with the movie. It's there. It's not like we're making it up. But like, uh,
yeah.
when it comes to the stuff that is good about the movie, we discussed Anne Hathaway, we discussed Sir Michael Caine, we discussed Batman's arc, and frankly, beyond that, I don't know, like, it's fine, like, and like Joe said earlier, it is a good looking movie. It's a generally well shot film, and I think that the scene where he reemerges as Batman, like whenever the young cop is like, "What's happening to the lights?" and the guy's like, "Oh, you're in for a show tonight, kid." He's like, "It can't be," like I love that shit.
It to
Ah,
me was more Robin than Blake was.
Right. There's actually a wonderful cameo. Like, I love the New York Stock Exchange thing, like, or Gotham City Stock Exchange thing. I love that
mhm.
heist, that whole setup.
I would
Super
love
cool.
more if I understood the stock market. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it just clicked for me on this watch that's why they got his thumbprints and his fingerprints
Right.
is so that they could make wire transfers in Bruce Wayne's name. So they just basically took all of Bruce's money
Yeah.
and laundered it through the
His
stock market,
stock
I
and
guess,
Wayne,
to
his
give
stock
it
and
to
Wayne
them. Yeah.
Enterprises. Yeah,
Right.
like that.
Yeah, that
Like it
clicked
were
for me this watch. I was like, oh, that's why they got the thumbprints, and that's why Bruce is dirt poor and everything.
One of my favorite little details about that scene is that we've got a young Glenn Powell there as the like lead stockbroker.
Glenn Powell.
He, you
didn't
would
like.
might Yeah, Top Gun Maverick. He was the young hotshot.
Oh,
He's in Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney in
okay,
theaters right
wow,
now.
huh?
He was on the show Scream Queens for years. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
Okay,
like the main hostage basically that stays on the bike the whole time and everything.
wow, okay. Yeah, hmm. Would have never known that.
Yep.
he'll pop
So,
up in a Christopher Nolan movie one of these years. Then
yep. We got Tom Conti. We got Albert Einstein as the
That's how you
gentleman
said Albert
helping.
Einstein. I was
Yeah.
so confused. I'm like,
I hit up
wait.
Joe last night. I said, Albert Einstein, baby. No
I was
context.
like,
No
where did
context.
that come from? I'm like, what did I miss? I'm like, what
Yeah.
did I not watch the right movie? I'm like,
No,
is there
yeah,
some alternate ending?
that's so.
he's the one who takes care of Bruce in the cave.
Oh,
And
oh wow!
Oh my
yeah, the dude's a
god.
great actor. Tom
Wow.
Yeah,
Conti is a
yes.
fantastic character actor.
Yeah.
So like when he popped up, I was like, oh, I didn't realize he's like part of the Christopher Nolan lexicon. He's like a part of that group. I didn't realize it. Uh, one of my favorite little Tom Conti roles is in Paddington 2, actually. Love Paddington 2. He
Classic.
gets his hair cut off by Paddington, and Paddington has to stick it back on, and he uses marmalade. So very Paddington of him.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, just a lot of little. There was a lot of little joys in this movie, and I appreciate that for what it is. The thing is that when it comes to the Dark Knight trilogy, I'm gonna typically go to Dark Knight and skip. Probably skip the other two, but even so, there's a chance I throw on Batman Begins by itself.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever throw The Dark Knight Rises on by itself. I will have had to have watched the Dark Knight trilogy to get to The Dark Knight Rises, and
That's true.
Yeah.
it's just kind of how it is.
Some of those movies that like even when it's on TV, like I kind of skip through it. Like there are some movies where I will like choose to watch them. And there are some movies where like if they're on TV, I'll watch a little bit, and there's some movies where I won't even do that. So
yeah.
If
No.
if it pops up though, and he's in the pit, and I hear
Yeah.
EB Asa or whatever it is,
It
I'm
means
kinda in.
right.
I mean, I'm kind
that's a
of
good.
in. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, no, I mean like it's. I think that the first couple acts have several good moments, and I think that the very end of the third act is strong, and the beginning of the third act is strong.
Yeah.
But there's just so many like holes in this movie, like stretches of this film where I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. You know, like, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of is the way it is. You know, but ultimately, it'll probably fare pretty kindly on our rating scale. Or are we there, or what are we missing? Is it?
Yeah, I guess shot wise, I mean, we really didn't
Yes.
go there. And you were kind of right. There's not very many to choose from that are stand out. I just went with one. He landed the Batwing in the Batcave. He gets out. He has his helmet off or his mask off, and it's him and Alfred just kind of walking on the bridge to the Bat computer. And it's this kind of one. It's like it's up high and then it lowers and then like follows them on the bridge and then it like rests when they get to the Bat computer. I just don't know why they don't put the eye makeup when the helmet or the mask is off. God damn it, I want to see Christian Bale with the eye makeup with the mask off, just like Robert Pattinson. It looks so good. And why in this case they don't do it? It's the one time in the movie where it could happen.
It's like particularly hot if you have the eye makeup.
Also in the Batman, I think I mentioned this in every time we do a Batman recap, but there is a shot of him putting the eyeshadow on.
Yeah,
Like they go for it.
they're like, yeah, he's,
Little hot tub
that's
palette.
what he looks like.
Yeah.
So
Christian Bale
that's what he
good.
would
Sorry.
look like.
Yeah.
Christian Bale was do that.
I mean, does he before he put is it a finger rub? Is it a spray? Is it a what do you think? Is it a what do you think
He's got a reverse like inverted mask that covers the rest of his face, and he's just
It's pre-stuck onto the mask. It is already in the mask. He just has to zoop. It's just a sticker, like a sticker.
Yeah, no, that's
black.
almost certainly it. I think we got to the bottom of it.
He gets a makeup wipe before he goes. Out.
Yes, exactly. He's like he takes off his helmet in the Batwing, and he's like, you know,
He has the principle.
But yeah,
he's like, hey, Alfred, you know, can't let you see me all messy.
Opportunity though, man. I wanted it, but I didn't get it. That's okay.
I want it to, but yeah. Claire, what about your favorite shot of the movie? What do you think you're coming with there?
It's when, like, towards the end of the fight with Bane, and Bane, like, slams Batman down, and you can see his mask crack.
Ah,
Mm.
yes, yes. I love that. I love
Very,
that.
it's so Darth Vader. It's like,
I
yeah.
wish they would have like. There's a moment whenever Bane like carries half of his helmet away, and then like tosses it into the water.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked if, as they were dragging Christian Bale away, they would have shown like
Yeah.
zoomed in on that. I
Waiting,
thought it was
yeah. I
thought it was
was
an
wondering
interesting
if
choice
that is
not to.
like, well, it's weird too because I feel like in that, like, Selena knows that that's Bruce, right? Like she's
Yes, yeah.
under no impression that that's not. So I don't know.
I think that's where she learns it too. Like he's like,
Maybe it's
Bruce
still these
Wayne,
stunt double when they're dragging him away.
and he's like, and she's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think she had a good
damn, I
idea.
really,
Yeah, yeah. She didn't
oops,
feel good.
like,
Yeah, she didn't feel good.
You have to be kind of dense to not realize that he's talking about his powerful friend is himself. Like I don't think that,
yeah,
and that would not make sense for her character to not understand that
yeah.
that's
No, she's pretty smart. She's yeah.
everyone else in Gotham not so much, but
No, the Gotham people. Bruce Wayne emerges after 8 years gone with like a severe limp,
yeah.
and he's got a cane he's walking on and stuff. And then after he emerges, like days later, Batman reemerges and stuff, and it's like, okay, well, I don't
Batman is
know.
blown to hell and Bruce Wayne is also dead, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, but yeah, my favorite shot is just like one of the most Christopher Nolan Batman shots of the movie. I fucking love it, and I wanted to give it a little shine. It's when he's standing at like the top of a tower and his cape is flowing in the wind, and there's like this big sweeping
Mm.
pan around him where
Mm-hmm.
you start on like the side of him and you get all the way behind him. Clearly had to have been achieved by like a helicopter. Like there's like no other way you could have possibly gotten that shot. And I thought that was just like, it's one insert shot, and the
Yeah.
idea that they were like, we got to take a flight up, guys, let's go ahead and
Fuck
do
it.
this no matter how many
Yep.
takes it is, like, yeah, like that's
Fuck
hella
it. Get
cool.
on top of the bridge. We have to do this. This is a Batman
Yeah,
movie. Yeah, it's like, it was good. It was good looking.
but
And
yeah, I think even since the last time you were here, Claire, the last time The Dark Knight, or has there
Yeah,
been,
so I think
I
so.
believe we've changed our rating system since
Oh
you
my
were
god,
last
we
here.
changed the rating
we
system.
have it.
Yes,
Wow, the Dark
yes,
Knight was still the
you're
old.
much
Okay.
easier now. Instead of four getting amalgamated into one, it is now two getting amalgamated into one.
Amazing. What did the
I
two?
know,
Much
I
easier.
know, and it's enjoyment and critical. We decided to remove the genre and adaptation, make it a little less convoluted, um,
Mm-hmm.
coming to accept that the superhero movies, that is its genre, So, uh, enjoyment and critical is how we evaluate these things now. Um, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you vibing with the movie? How much are you liking it? How much are you digging it?
I have to admit there were points where I was scrolling on my phone during this movie, so I'm gonna have
Mm-hmm.
to give it probably, what did he use, like 7.75?
7.75. That's pretty kind. I dig that.
Hmm.
It's not far from where I'm at.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, shit. I've got it at 19 on my personal ranking of our
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
comic book,
Mhm.
which finds itself.
How many have so far?
What's that?
How many, like, out of how many?
This is 49. This is the 49 or 48th. This is the 48th
That's right.
movie.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so it's
Um,
the top half.
top half, yes, and it certainly is. Like, no matter how many problems I have with it,
It's a well-made movie.
it's a well-made movie ultimately, and much more tolerable to watch than even other Batman movies. So like, I'll take it. But even so, I have it below Batman Returns. I have it below the Avengers. I have it below Iron Man. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
Yeah.
Those are all
I did as well. I did put it below the X-Men movies. It is right above Watchmen, for me, and I'd say that's probably the closest movie I have to it is the Incredible Hulk or the Watchmen, which are
I've
the
got it right
closest
above
there.
the Incredible Hulk and 15 spots above Watchmen, personally. But
Okay, yeah, that is we do differ there. Incredible Hulk, that's a 7.5, and that's why the 7.75 actually looked very
yeah,
pleasing
that's
to
pretty
me.
satisfying.
That's
Yeah.
It's still below X-Men, below Batman Returns. Watchmen is still at an 8. I know you might not
I'll
agree with
take it.
that.
That's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, I think the 7.75 actually felt right for me.
Yeah, I think I'm there then after you lay it
Like
out
a
like that. Because
B, not
what was
like
that?
a. It's not like quite a B. I would give it, but it's not quite like a
Yeah.
C either.
No, yeah, it's a C plus, C plus, B minus, it's in that
They got the
range.
job done. They got the job done.
It does. It's fine. It's solid. As a conclusion for the character Batman, I enjoy it a great
Yeah,
deal. There's just a lot more going on that makes the
yeah.
movie
Hmm.
a little less enjoyable, and that's all. So I think it benefits from that. So ultimately, I'm willing to propel it to a 7.75.
Okay.
But critically, on a scale of 1 to 10, all things considered, acting, cinematography, score. I think the score in this movie is actually quite good.
Yeah, scores.
Pretty fucking strong.
Yeah.
Visual effects, all things considered. How are you feeling about this movie on a critical level?
Hmm. I think some of the acting is good. I think most of the acting is not. I think nicely, it's a really nicely made movie. It looks good. A lot of the script is bad one-liners.
Hmm.
My feeling for this is like an 8, which maybe might be too high. I don't know. Because I feel like I
I'm
gave Batman and Robin like a 6, and I feel like it's not a 7 critically. Maybe 7.5.
all right. You want to settle on a 7.5, or you.
Sure.
All right,
Okay.
then with our weighting and everything, that makes your score of the movie come out to a 76%, a 7.6 out of 10. And I think I can get with that. Looking at our critical ratings here, yeah, for me personally, eight's a touch too high, especially when you look at the team behind this movie. The
Yeah.
actors in it are wonderful. Christian Bale is great. Anne Hathaway does a good job. Michael Caine does a good job. Morgan Freeman doesn't get anything to work with. Tom Hardy is behind a mask the whole time, and even so, he does a fine job. But it's not like he's doing everything he possibly can. Marion Cotillard is not good. Um,
We had Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan writing
this is
too.
the
It's like
worst thing Jonathan Nolan's
it's
ever written.
I know. It's like we had the super squad for
Yeah.
a comic book movie, and
I mean, David S. Goyer was behind the story, and he's done a lot of shitters, but he's also done a lot of the best stuff from the genre. Like
hmm
he's got a great balance of stuff under his
yeah,
belt. So like, and Jonathan Nolan, I love him because of Westworld, and he
dude is a
even there's a movie with
creative
Hugh
mind.
Jackman from a couple years ago and Thindy Way Newton called Reminiscence that I like more than this. And
Hmm.
he wrote that, and
Yeah, the I mean the eights. That is, that did seem a little bit too high. Cap, the first Avenger, we gave a 7.75, and I think
I don't think it's as good as
that's
that.
written better. I mean, even shit, the product. I mean, I don't know that's kind of
No, the thing that this
crazy.
benefits from is the real feel. Like it is so obviously shot in New York. Like whenever we talk about production design, there's almost no production design to speak of because they're just shooting on location, and that's
Yeah.
cool and it works. Um, like the courtroom, the de facto courtroom, super cool. Love that design. Like there's a lot of stuff that the sewers, that's cool. That like that's sets. They're not
Mm-hmm.
just. I
Yeah.
doubt they're actually
The
shooting in sewers there.
plane exploding at the beginning is somewhat practical as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's really cool as well. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I think it benefits from that. I don't think I could take it super low below
Yeah, like X-Men is
Captain
seven
America: The First Avenger.
five, Iron Man 7.5.
It's probably about where it belongs. I think we're coming to the exact same conclusions Claire was here. I think we're all on the same page,
Wow.
and I think that makes it a 76% overall, which
That's
makes
right.
it by a lot the lowest Batman movie of
Yeah,
the Dark Knight trilogy.
Mhm.
definitely.
Um,
That is for sure. Yeah, it would 7.58, which ties it with the Avengers. Actually, on our average scale, below X-Men, below Batman 89, but above
that's
Thor.
surprising. I like him more than Batman
Yeah.
89, but.
I don't know. The old Batman movies didn't really do it for me. The more I'm away from them as well, the more I do realize I just like the newer ones more.
No, yeah,
For
like
me.
Batman Returns is definitely my favorite of the pre-Bale era. Um and our ratings would not reflect this, but I think besides that, Batman 66. Like I love Batman 66. I would happily revisit that.
Yeah. That was a different kind, different ball game.
And Batman and Robin. Like I like Batman and Robin a lot. So like that's the thing is that I've never like. This is probably the Batman movie I take the most issue with. It's not like the other stuff is not like I'm critically parsing through it and being like, God, this what a terrible film. Like, no, they're enjoyable movies. They're fun movies, but they weren't made to be like, whoa, this is so good. This is made to be good, you know?
And also, Nolan is the person who made comic book movies like this. You know, he's the one who shifted our vision of what a comic book movie should be. So the fact that he's not living up to that, I think makes it hurts it a little bit more.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
You
but
know, it's not Joel Schumacher doing this. Like he had a totally different thing.
Exactly. And I think that ultimately 76. It's better. It's better than it's not. You know. So like I'll take it. Yeah. But so I think with that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Trilogy.
Sorry, repeat that for me.
What does that make the overall average of the trilogy?
Ooh, good question.
We have a 9.83 for The Dark Knight, an 8.75 for Batman Begins.
Yeah, The Dark Knight and Batman Begins are both top 4 in the entire project, and then this is like barely top 20.
And so the average of the Batman of Nolan's is an 8.72, which is basically tied for 3rd and 4th place.
Overall extremely strong. Just a weak last link. That's an interesting question. I've never considered adding up the franchises and kind of considering what we end up. Yeah, no, that's a good idea, Claire. I'm gonna steal that from you. If you don't mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a new little thing we're gonna do when we conclude a franchise. But with that, we will conclude this episode of the comic book movie journey through film. And the Penny Bloom podcast. We'll be back this Friday with Kyler Barnett for Iron Man 3, and I'm very excited for that. That was a good episode. We actually recorded that before this, and then we scheduled them differently, and it was all sorts of mixed up. So Iron Man 3, we will not make mention. We will not make mention of the end of a trilogy, end of a franchise thing, because that's already been done. So, but next time we conclude a franchise, I will be stealing that. So thank you, Claire. If you would head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, including all sorts of book reviews, comic book reviews, movie reviews, and the like. For $3 a month, you can support this podcast financially, and there's going to be so much more stuff going up there because we started a TikTok page, and that's at Penny Bloom Podcast, where we've begun video and everything, and we can take a lot of clips from our regular stuff and put it up, but we get a lot more random conversation over on Patreon. We can take a little bit of that, throw it on TikTok. So I think we've already recorded like 3 or 4 things this year for Patreon, and it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, head to TikTok, follow on at Penny Bloom Podcast. Remember to Penny Bloom Podcast. Sorry. Remember to subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there. We would appreciate that greatly. Leave a like and maybe a comment if you have any questions or anything. You know, we can try to address that. Head to Twitter, follow at Penny Bloom Pod, follow on Letterboxd at Penny Bloom Pod, follow on Instagram at Penny Bloom Podcast, and remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening, and continue downloading episodes. That is a huge help. Let's see. Yeah, we'll be back next Monday with Winter is Blooming, a Game of Thrones rewatch podcast. I believe next Monday brings us season 7, episode 2, and I'm very excited for that. We're almost done. Almost done with Game of Thrones. We're getting there. It's been a long time coming, and I'm excited for it to be over. I love the show, but it's been a long time that we've been covering that. So, that's coming this week, and we'll be back next week with more comic book movie journey through film. As next Wednesday will bring us Was that episode 500? Is that Man of Steel?
Man of Steel. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Next Wednesday is episode 500 of the podcast, which is insane. Happy that we're getting that going, and that'll be there next Wednesday, Man of Steel, and then next Friday we continue the comic book movie journey through film with the Wolverine. So we got a lot coming, a lot of stuff, and it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, with that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you very much, Clare DeGannero, for concluding this trilogy with us.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Oh, of course. And you're always welcome back. We'll have to figure out what the next step is post Dark Knight. But yeah, with that, remember, peace, love, and bloom.
And a hero can be anyone. Even a man doing something as simple as reassuring others, putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know that the world hadn't ended.